to the First Responders Wealth Network. Our mission is to help all first responders change their mindset towards money and educate how to build long-term wealth through real estate investing. Are you ready?
We got another podcast here. I am here with Sofia Castro, which is Bobby's better half, and we are excited. We're just talking off air. She's actually down in the Bahamas right now, aren't you?
I sure am. I'm loving it. It's awesome over here.
That's amazing. So Sofia, has literally helped build a $400 million empire. And I'm going to get you to share your story a little bit because I think it's really important. What I get out of it, at least, Sofia, is your transition to where you are. It's not like you were born into, money or, opportunities being thrown at you. You guys really worked hard, and I really give you credit for that. And you guys are so genuine and down to earth. I know Bobby's come on a couple times. We had a 2-part series and had a lot of great feedback from that. So yeah, just the transition from entrepreneur mindset to real estate to kind of where you guys are now. But so why don't you just share your story and give people a little background of who the heck you are?
Okay, well, thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast, Dave. I love the concept that you have behind your podcast. That's great. Me and my husband met when we were very young. I was 18 years old and he was 22. We both came from very similar backgrounds. I was born and raised in Hialeah, Florida. If any of your listeners know where that's at, it's a very Latin community where, modest families live. And we lived in the same neighborhood, grew up in the same neighborhood, but we never met each other until I was 18 years old. When I did meet him, Bobby already had a mindset at 22 years old that he was not going to live the way that his parents had been raised him. So when I first met him, he was very energetic, very like he is today, very energetic, but he already had an entrepreneur mindset, which I didn't because I came from a family that worked 3 jobs. We were 7 siblings. My parents had to hustle in order to maintain 7 siblings, as you can imagine. 2-3 jobs that at one time, my poor dad, we used to work all day, sleep 4 hours a day just to be able to maintain us. So I just had the mindset that I had to work. That was my mindset. I had to work to make a living to be able to afford my stuff. So when I met him, he was like, gung-ho, I'm going to own my own business. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I was looking at him and I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was at that point. I was like, what? So we hit it off, basically, Bobby and myself. The first day we met, we've been together for now 30 years. Of course, we have our roller coaster rides in our relationship, just like anybody else does. But we've learned how to be able to manage our relationship and last married and happily married for 30 years. But when I first met him, he told me, listen, this is what my journey is going to be. You want to come along with the ride? I would love for you to come along for the, alongside of me, and let's go on to, opening a business, doing something, but I'm not working for somebody else. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that is, but you know what? If you're confident and you know what you want to do, let's go for it. And I did. I went alongside of him. We opened a few little side, businesses here and there when we were younger. They all failed, but we got great learning lessons from those failures. And that's what I always tell everybody. We learned instead of just saying, oh, we can't do this and give up. And this is why everybody, this is a normal thing. We don't have money. You're going to fail. We can't do this. This is not for us. It's only for rich people. No, we learned every step that we failed. We took the lesson from it and we said, okay, this doesn't work, so we need to do this. And we went learning along the journey. And then within those journeys, we had to live with our parents. We didn't have enough money. None of our parents had money. None of them. They lived paycheck to paycheck, so they couldn't help us. And along the way, we got pregnant very early on our stage of our relationship. We weren't even married. We were just together for 6 months. And that kind of put like a wrench on the road, because then we had to go back to work because we were like, okay, we have another baby. We have a baby now that we have to take care of another person. So we just can't be doing what we used to do and not worry. So now we both went to work, but at the same time, Bobby, in the back of his mind, already was still working on different businesses, what avenue he was going to go on, what we were going to do. So we stopped for like 2 years. We worked, we gathered some little bit of money, nothing major, $5,000, $6,000. I don't even remember. And then my mom helped us. Like 2 years later, my daughter was around 2 years old when we decided that we were ready to go on to opening a business. Bobby done a lot of research. One thing that Bobby does is that he researches the heck out of whatever industry he's going to go into. He's like a big researcher. He likes to know the competitors around him. So we were doing research and we got into this business that we did not know anything about, but we thought, God, there's not a lot of competition out there. And it was a brokerage firm for leasing heavy equipment. And what that did was it would consumers that were looking to lease like bulldozers, 18-wheelers, x-ray machines, any kind of machinery that was for the business, we would be the broker. What we would do is get that consumer and match them up with a community bank that would lend to small businesses, which was not easy at the time when we were in there. Not many businesses would lend to small businesses and lease. So we did that, and it really worked out. Meanwhile, that I was working during the day and Bobby had 2 jobs during the day. At night, we would do, this little by little. And a year later, we both quit our jobs and we went into it full time. And we started seeing that the business was very legit and lucrative. It was bringing in, nice money for us at that time. We thought it was like great, And we really went at it, put in all of our efforts, and we started doing this business. We even brought in Bobby's brother, Eric, which is still in business with the business that we just sold. And we really said, we're going to go for this and take it on all the way. And luckily, that business today, we sold a year ago in June for a $1 billion evaluation. So we took that business from zero, knowing not much about the industry, all the way up to an evaluation of $1 billion. So our entrepreneur mindset and focusedness was we were going to do it. And if you guys, I don't know your listeners, but I'm sure they've already heard Bobby's story. Myself and Bobby both are dropouts, not even knowing each other. I dropped out in 10th grade because I had dyslexia and I had a reading comprehension that teachers just never really knew or didn't even tell me. So I thought I was going to school and that I was not learning, and I would fail my classes. And I'm like, okay, enough. I'm going to work. I need to make money. I need to pay for my own car. I needed to pay for insurance. So we're both dropouts. So it's one thing I say about the dropout thing. I say it because I want people to understand that you don't need to be this genius person to be able to be an entrepreneur. My kids finished school. I'm a big, big advocate of finishing school. If you want to go to college, that's beautiful, but at least get done with school. I think education is important. You need it for many aspects of your life, just to read and know how to add and subtract, right? But I say it just because and I'm not proud. Oh my God, I dropped out of high school. It's not a thing that I'm proud of, but I just like to say it because I want people to understand that you could do this if you really want to. It's all about your mindset and that heart that if you want it, you're going to get it.
I agree with that. And it's interesting to hear, that was a lot of your background right into one synopsis there. But it's interesting how far you guys have come. The transition from where you were to obviously where you are now. You're built what you have, and I know we'll get into the real estate side of things too, but I guess you talk about education, and there's one thing, there's always heavy debate on that with the amount of debt that's in the US right now, especially for education and that sort of thing, and what are people actually doing with it. But completing something is obviously number one. You want to complete anything you start, but it all depends on what route you want to go. If you're going to be something in a specific route or specific field, obviously you need those college education courses, but there's a lot of, if you're willing to go into the entrepreneurial space or open your own business or do something on yourself, the default of going into universities and colleges is not the go-to. So I think it's interesting for you to say, you've dropped out in grade 10 and look where you guys have both become. Very, very interesting.
Yes, I always preach that. If you're going to be a doctor, if you're going to be a CPA, if you're going to be an architect, something that you need that degree, then I say, you know what? You have to go to college. You need it. It's a must. But if it's a person that's just going to college just to say, hey, I got an AA, what are you doing with that? So you're getting yourself into debt. You're doing a lot of things that you could use that money that you're putting yourself into debt to create a business of your own and become an entrepreneur. So it all depends. I agree. I'm all for education. I do not ever discourage anyone not to, but it's not needed if you want to be an entrepreneur.
And I feel the world's shifting too to more of like the experience-based side of almost like an application process. Like what learning experience do you have? What life experience do you have? Like I know even for policing, sometimes they look or they go through phases where they want people with a little more education, and then they'll go through a phase of a little more life experience. So it all depends, but there's nothing more powerful, I guess is what I'm getting at, than actual like life real experience. And part of that is part of your journey of failing your businesses, which gave you the ability to kind of grow that company because of those failures. So
100%. Those failures, I tell you, everybody needs failure. They're the best learning lessons. Now, that's if you take it as a lesson, because a lot of people fail and they don't understand that was a lesson, and they just disregard it and they either do the same mistake again, or they just give up because they failed. But for us, for Bobby and myself, has been the biggest education for us. Life education has been the failures, because we just pick up from there, make them better, and then that just lets you climb up to the next step.
Yeah. Take those failures and they're learning seminars.
Yes, exactly. They're university degrees.
Definitely. Well, we all have many degrees then, if that's the case. So where was the transition then into real estate? And, we could go down and talk about your business and building it. And I mean, it is pretty amazing how the scale and the size that you guys did that with even your brother, Eric. But where was the transition from like the idea of not only just the business that you're growing, which in our case would be, you're working on the road, you're a first responder. So I consider that like that's our number one business, but also building something on the side. So you guys went outside of your normal business and started thinking about other income streams and looking into real estate. So like was there someone that just kind of nudged you and said, hey, think about real estate, or did it fall in your lap, or is it something that you and Bobby always wanted to be to learn about?
So from day one, Bobby always loved real estate, right? And we always wanted to go into real estate because we always knew that that's a business that's here